Every year, the NBA playoffs showcase the best of the best, but in 2025, it's not just talent that shaped the finals, it's who survived. Injuries have quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, reshuffled the deck, turning potential dynasties into question marks and giving unexpected teams a shot at the title.
He's going to the locker room.
Well, oh my gosh. He is as tough as they come.
If you're a fan, these moments change the storylines. If you're into the fantasy league, they wrecked or made your season.
Where the fuck do I even fucking begin, bro?
But beyond the drama, there's a deeper layer here. These injuries aren't random. They're orthopedic case studies in load, recovery, and mechanics. And they've helped decide who's still standing in the NBA Finals. As an orthopedic surgeon, I see firsthand how these injuries not only disrupt team chemistry, but also playoff trajectories. In this video, we're breaking down the biggest injuries of the 2025 playoff season. I'll walk you through each case from a surgeon's lens so you can better understand how we got these final matchups and what could still change as the last games play out. If you're a returning viewer, do me a solid and give the video a like and a comment because you know it's gonna be a banger. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Watch the video and then give me a like at the end. And don't forget to subscribe with notifications so you can be part of my march to a milli. That being said, let's get to it.
You never saw a frame like this. 7-footer, mobile.
First up, we're talking about one of the biggest names to ever step on a basketball court, Steph freaking Curry. This guy is the Warriors' offense. The handles, the range, the off-ball movement, it all runs through him. So when he went down in game 1 against the Timberwolves, that wasn't just a bump in the road. That was a blowout.
Showed us for the first time, that was after the three-pointer. He's grabbing at his left hamstring.
A pulled left hamstring, technically a grade 1 strain. That's the mildest type, but mild doesn't mean harmless. It means outstretched or slightly torn fibers, enough to throw off speed, balance, and change of direction. And for a player like Steph, built on quick cuts and sudden stops, that's everything. He didn't return for the rest of the series, and without him, the Warriors just couldn't get their rhythm. Without Steph's gravity, defenses collapsed on everyone else. The Timberwolves closed it out 4-1. From a fantasy basketball perspective, yeah, it can hurt. Curry is a playoff anchor for a lot of teams, and this caught people off guard. It's one of those injuries where, even if it seems minor, hamstrings can be super unpredictable. Even GOATs aren't invincible. And soft tissue injuries like this are tricky. Push too hard, too soon, and it can turn into a full tear. Now, let's talk about Damian Lillard, one of the coldest shooters in the league, clutch king, and basically the heartbeat of any team he's on. He goes down with one of the worst injuries you can get as a basketball player, an Achilles tear, which is a rupture of the tendon connecting your calf muscles to your heel bone. It happened in game 4 of the Bucks' first round series against the Pacers. Midway through the first quarter, Lillard went down and never returned. A few days later, it was confirmed, torn Achilles. These are not easy to bounce back from. Even with surgery, a lot of players lose explosiveness, see their minutes drop, and some never make it back to form.
All of this shit was scary, even when the Achilles, and it was like, man, you may get blood clots, because I felt like it was affecting my whole body, just, my Achilles, because such a major ligament.
From an orthopedic standpoint, this can definitely be career altering. The Achilles is what lets you sprint, jump, and decelerate. Basically everything Lillard does at an elite level. For the Bucks, it was a disaster. He was their closer, and without him, their backcourt depth got exposed. They had no shot at keeping up with the Pacers. Fantasy-wise, this wasn't just a bad beat, it was a season ender. If you had Dame in your lineup, you were probably building around him. Now you're scrambling for a replacement or digging through bench guys for an upside. And here's the real kicker. Next season isn't guaranteed. Even if he returns, will he have that first step, that bounce, that Dame time magic? We're hopeful, but there are studies that show that it takes professional athletes 2 years to return to their pre-injury form following an Achilles tear. Now, I'm not gonna go into too much depth on the next one since it was the same injury, a torn Achilles, but it's worth mentioning that Jason Tatum's postseason ended in eerily similar fashion. In game 4 of the Celtics' second round series against the Knicks, he collapsed late in the fourth quarter after a non-contact play.
Jalen just
another crazy
Sorry,
game.
real quick. Sorry. Just want prayers out to JT, man.
He'd been dominant, dropping major points, but the injury was devastating. The Celtics were already trailing in the series, and without Tatum, they couldn't recover. He underwent surgery the next day and is expected to miss the entire 2025-2026 season. As you can see, an injury like this can feel devastating when it happens, but with a thorough rehab and recovery plan, a full return isn't out of the question, though he may need to adapt his game.
When I get a cut, I think I'm top 5. Top 5 what? Top 5.
Next up, Kyrie Irving, one of the most electrifying guards in the league. Handles like butter, one of the best finishers at the rim, and when he's locked in, straight up unguardable. But in March, disaster struck. Kyrie tore his ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament, a key stabilizer inside the knee that's crucial for cutting and quick changes of direction. That's one of the worst injuries for a player who relies so much on shiftiness and speed.
That gives you chills.
He does. He's that guy.
He is that guy.
Now, if you don't know, ACL tears mean surgery, which Kyrie already had, followed by 8 to 12 months of intense rehab.
Immediately after surgery, we see Kyrie's knee in full extension. He's likely wearing a hinged knee brace here that is locked at 0 degrees. It's common to keep it at this position during the initial rehab phase, including during walking and sleep.
But it's not just time off. It's rebuilding strength, balance, and confidence in the knee. Because of that, Kyrie missed the playoffs. For the Mavericks, it was a massive hit. He's not just a scorer, he's a playmaker. That kind of adjustment mid-season, not easy. The offense becomes more predictable, spacing changes, and depth issues start showing up fast. For those betting on Irving, this L definitely stings, but it opens the door for other guards on the Mavs roster to step up and make an impact, with fantasy managers needing to be patient and realistic about Kyrie's lengthy recovery timeline.
I tore my ACL, but the recovery process already started. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Just wanted to let you guys know I'm okay.
Some reports say we might not see him at all next season. Others say Kyrie's aiming for a return in January 26. But the 33-year-old will be coming off a full ACL rehab, and with how much his game depends on explosiveness and knee control, the question remains, will we see the same Kyrie? And remember those studies about returning to pre-injury productivity after an Achilles tear? Yeah, well, the same thing applies to ACL injuries. While you might be able to return to competitive play after only 1 year, you won't be putting up numbers like you did before your injury for at least another year.
If I didn't make those free throws, I would have been pissed all year. You guys have no idea. I would have been pissed.
Next up, Joel Embiid. MVP talent, absolute powerhouse in the paint, but chronic knee issues finally caught up with him in early 2025. After trying to push through the first round, he was ultimately shut down following a joint decision by doctors and coaches. In April, he underwent arthroscopic surgery on his left knee, the same one he had operated on last season. With a long history of knee problems, including meniscus injuries in both knees, the move raised real concerns about re-injury and long-term durability.
The other situation that happens more commonly as players have had an injury history, they age, is their body, their joints start to be more prone to having aches and pains.
The meniscus plays a critical role in cushioning the joint, absorbing impact, and stabilizing the knee, especially in high-impact sports like basketball. And for a player Embiid's size, any damage there is a big deal. Years of jumping, landing, and absorbing contact create cumulative stress that makes recovery tougher, slower, and far less predictable. For the Sixers, losing him means losing your interior anchor, both on defense and on offense. For anyone building a fantasy team, Embiid's injury is a reminder that even the biggest names carry real risk. Investing a top draft pick in a player with ongoing injury concerns means you've got to be ready to pivot fast, and sometimes gamble on durability over pure talent. Next up, Karl-Anthony Towns.
Karl-Anthony Towns with his toes out.
Who, right up until his team's defeat, was battling through pain and still showing up big.
Nothing really came across my mind that I was going to miss this game. It's game 5. It's do or die. So
he took a hit late in game 4 against the Pacers, a knee-to-knee collision that had him hobbling. And with Towns' history of knee issues, again, meniscus surgery in 2024, the concern was immediate. He kept playing, but that kind of impact usually limits mobility, lateral movement, and rim protection, especially for a big man who relies on quick footwork and sharp defensive reactions.
Towns can barely move out here, guys. And Anunoby is hurt.
Still, Towns showed resilience, and the Knicks leaned on him as a major scoring threat, helping them stave off elimination until Game 6, when they ultimately fell to the Pacers, ending their playoff run. For fantasy managers, this is the nightmare zone because technically he's still playing, but maybe not producing at full strength. You're stuck weighing potential output against the looming risk of re-injury, and figuring out if you ride it out or pivot early. Now, let's talk about the man Towns collided knees with, Aaron Nesmith, a rising playoff asset, who unfortunately hit a hard stop.
Oh, right there. Yeah. Right foot, right ankle.
Nesmith had a strong game 1, picked up the right ankle sprain in game 3 and tried to gut it out, but by game 5, it was obvious something was off. Just 3 minutes in, he was benched. Ankle sprains are no joke, especially for a wing who thrives on quick cuts and lateral movement. At worst, it could include an injury to the cartilage and the bone of the ankle joint, an osteochondral defect. It messes with your footwork, slows reaction time, and throws off your shot. And if you push through too soon, you're risking a re-sprain, or worse. But Nesmith wasn't trying to sit. He said, "When I got hurt, they came up to me and said, 'We want to see how you feel.' I was like, 'I don't care how I feel.'" He wanted to play as players usually do. But Coach Carlisle eventually called it, saying he wasn't sure if Nesmith was slowed by the ankle, but his usual fire just wasn't there. And that meant Indiana had to lean on their bench earlier than expected, weakening their perimeter coverage and disrupting the rotation, though they still managed to stay competitive. Nesmith's injury shows a common playoff dilemma: banking on momentum players. After his breakout in game 1, the ankle limited his minutes and impact.
The importance of Nesmith and him being able to play on both ends of the floor is huge.
Fantasy managers chasing that early spark were left scrambling as his role diminished just when matchups got tighter. Now, with the Pacers still in the playoffs, they'll have to be strategic about if and when to play Nesmith, balancing his impact with the risk of overdoing it. And while we're on the topic of ankle sprains, we can't forget Jalen Brunson, who also had several ankle sprains throughout the playoffs. While he didn't miss any games, he certainly sat out for stretches due to the injuries, and as a small guard, attempting to play through several ankle sprains is a tough proposition considering those whom you have to play against. While looking up articles for this topic, I had to look up a lot of information from different sources. Ground News is a great tool for this purpose for a number of reasons. Consider my recent video on vaccines, where I had to consider articles from both the perspective of anti-vaxxers, but also the perspective of the widely accepted medical community. I also had to consider information from different sides of the political spectrum as well, which is why I'm excited to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Ground News, the service that I use to help me compile and understand immense amounts of news information. Ground News is a website and app that aggregates news from around the world in one place so that you can compare the coverage, get to the actual facts, and avoid sensational narratives that might be created by one side or the other, and avoid a perspective that might be fed to you by a manipulative algorithm. Every story presented on their site is presented with its context, its factuality, political bias, and ownership of the publication, so that you can clearly know how sources are covering a story and you can clearly understand the position being presented. An example that I came across was this discussion about RFK Jr. defunding vaccine promotion and HIV prevention. We can see that there are 29 outlets covering this story, with most of the coverage coming from the right. And when you compare the coverage, you can see that articles on the right tend to focus on the cuts as a restructuring project and criticisms of the VAERS reporting system as being ineffective at capturing vaccine injuries. Coverage on the left, on the other hand, focuses more on the effects that the cuts will have on specific communities and populations, and the effect that these layoffs and closures will have on American families. Ground News is an essential tool to help you cut through all the hyperbole to get you to the facts so that you can really understand what is actually happening. You can subscribe to Ground News right now and get 40% off the Unlimited Access Vantage subscription, bringing the price down to just $5 per month for unlimited access. Just go to groundnews.com/Raynor or click the link in my description. Everyone should do their own research, but it only matters if they are presented with the real facts. So remember, go to groundnews.com/Raynor to subscribe. Next up, Russell Westbrook. The veteran guard, known for his toughness, recently announced he'll undergo surgery to repair 2 fractures in his right hand that he apparently accumulated throughout the season. Hand fractures in elite athletes often require surgery, especially when there's displacement or ligament damage. With proper rehab, return to play can happen in as little as 4 to 6 weeks, but for a guard, that's your shooting hand, your handles, your control. Even if cleared to play, you may not be 100%. Unless, of course, you're a no excuses guy like Westbrook. Westbrook had been gutting it out all season, playing through the pain. But in hindsight, the injury likely took a toll on his grip, timing, and ball security. For Denver, that matters. With Jamal Murray already questionable, they needed Westbrook's aggression and playmaking. Did they get it? If his hand had been healthy, would it have changed anything? It's hard to say. Fantasy-wise, Westbrook's hidden injury created uncertainty. On the surface, his stats nor performance show a clear drop-off, so managers couldn't tell if he was playing at full strength or just masking the pain. Without that info, it was tough to know whether to rely on him or prepare for potential struggles as the playoffs approached. Next, Donovan Mitchell, one of the league's most dynamic scorers, sidelined by a rolled ankle at the worst possible time. The initial injury happened in April when he stepped on another player's foot, lost balance, and turned his ankle. A classic inversion sprain. I couldn't find clear footage of the actual event, but y'all know what we're talking about. For a guard like Mitchell, that's brutal. You'd likely lose your pop, your first step, your lift on jumpers. It was rough enough that he missed the last 4 games of the season, and when he came back, it was clear he wasn't fully recovered. It was clearly bothering him during the warm-ups for Game 4, and he ended up missing the second half. An MRI later confirmed a re-aggravation of that ankle injury. For Cleveland, that means more uncertainty. And for Mitchell, that ongoing ankle trouble could mean persistent instability, hesitation to push off fully, and difficulty maintaining his usual sharpness. When Mitchell went down, fantasy managers scrambled to find scoring anywhere they could, often picking up guards who played big minutes but weren't always reliable scorers. With this setback, it's even more critical to be cautious about relying on his production until he's fully healthy. Even beyond the names we've covered, the 2025 playoffs were defined by a simple fact. Very few teams were at full strength. Victor Wembanyama, Kawhi Leonard, and Zion Williamson were all dealing with major injuries earlier in the season, missing huge stretches and reminding us how fragile even star-powered rosters can be. Other key players were in and out of lineups when it mattered most. Kristaps Porzingis, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter, Ja Morant all missed time during crucial games. Even LeBron James was reportedly nursing a knee sprain that could have sidelined him if the Lakers had gone further. By the time you get to May and June, almost no one is playing at 100%. That's the reality of the NBA Finals. The injuries don't stop, the stakes just get higher. As Doc Rivers put it, the human spirit is amazing, and that's definitely evident in professional sports arenas. Ballers see the NBA playoffs as the final battleground, where every minute is earned and every step might hurt. But this highlights the razor-thin line between perseverance and vulnerability, because playing through pain has its costs. But in terms of playoff trajectories, what have we learned? First, depth matters. Teams that survived injuries weren't always the most talented, they were the most adaptable. Deep benches and flexible rotations kept some rosters afloat while others sank. Second, rehab isn't optional. From an orthopedic standpoint, rushing back from injury doesn't just hurt performance, it invites re-injury. The teams that protected their players long enough to return at full strength had the best long-term outcomes.
That's what goes unnoticed when you talk about professional athletes and how we deal with injuries, you know what I'm saying, and what it takes to really come out of that.
Third, For fantasy managers, staying on top of injury reports and making quick strategic decisions is half the game. Knowing when to trade, when to stream, and when to stash can make or break your season. And finally, some injuries linger. ACLs, Achilles, serious fractures, these don't just affect the current playoffs. They change player value for seasons to come in both real life and in fantasy. So from where I sit as an orthopedic surgeon, the 2025 playoffs were a stark reminder. Injuries aren't just footnotes. They shape entire seasons, swing matchups, and rewrite careers. Whether you're building a real team or a fantasy roster, understanding how injuries work and how recovery really happens can give you a serious edge.
When I realized that talent was not going to be enough, it was not going to be enough for me to be anywhere near greatness.
Take care of your body, respect the rehab, and never underestimate the power of a healthy player, especially in June, bro. Thanks for joining me in this discussion about injuries that have shaped the landscape for the 2025 NBA playoffs. If you have an interest in human anatomy and injury science, subscribe and click on your notifications to catch my uploads every Sunday morning. And if you care about your health, don't forget to follow my gym, Human 2.0 Fitness, for free right here on YouTube, where we post content that helps you move better and prevent injury, or its sister channel, Human at Home, where we show you how to be healthy in the space where you live. Otherwise, as always, that's been a word from Dr. Chris Raynor, not your everyday ortho, where we see one, do one, teach one. Nothing but net, yo. Nothing but net.